Hello, welcome to the sideboard here at the StarCityGames.com Standard Open in Orlando, brought to you by Ultimate Guard. I'm Nick Miller alongside Ian Botsford, and you got something else.
I have a deck, that's for sure. Deck and a half, really.
Yes. A friend of mine came up to me here and he said, "You got to see this guy's deck. He's got 100 cards in it." And at first I said, "Why would anyone ever want to do that?" And then you said you're X1. And so now we're 6 rounds in the tournament. You're 5-1 with a 100-card green-black Seasons Pass deck.
What are you saying like that? It just sounds amazing.
Now, of course, we brought this up to the commentators, and they said, "Why 100 cards?" And you said,
"Because it's fun. It's extremely fun to have all the cards that you ever want."
So there's not a lot of strategy behind it. It's just
I mean, since it's based off of green-black Seasons Pass, all the cards in Seasons Pass pretty much do the same thing. You're really not looking for anything in particular. You tutor it up, and since all the cards bounce off of each other, you don't really have to worry about too much except for hyper aggro decks.
Right. So you take, we saw the green-black Seasons Pass deck break it out the Pro Tour, and now this is just an extension of that with as many one-ofs and kind of tutorable effects, because at the core the deck is a Dark Petition Seasons Pass deck that can kind of loop everything and find any answer for any situation.
Yeah.
So what are some of the cards that you wanted that the original deck didn't have room for?
When I originally built this, I built it like kind of like a mid-range Season Pass deck. Like I had Sylvan Advocates in there and stuff like that, but I found that like Infinite Obliterations against ramp decks, so I just get crushed by ramp in the game one. It's because kill spells aren't really good against them. And then green-white tokens, if I didn't have a certain draw, I'd just get run over. Like end of turn, Secure the Waste. And I don't have counter spells, so all right, I guess I die.
Yeah.
So that made me just want to play the Virulent Plagues and the Infinite Obliterations in the main. And when I went to a PPTQ, a friend of mine told me about Vessel and that I should, use this because it worked really good with Mind Rack. So then I put that in too. Then I'm like, well, 4 Vessels, 4 Mind Racks. I mean, it takes like 1 mill spell, and I'm basically dead. So I'm like, let's add some more cards. Let's keep going. And I was like, what? I played Commander for a long time. I think 100's a good round number to stop right about there.
Yeah, you got a bunch of 4-ups still that kind of make the deck tick. You got Thought-Knot Seer, but then we have not seen a lot of Mind Rack Demon in a lot of decks. But in a deck like this, where you just have all the things rolling around, the 4/5 rate is very good. And then of course, the Vessel of Nascency here, another card that was very good and limited, but definitely makes what you're trying to do work.
With this deck, I mean, the ability to dig between Mind Rack Demon and Vessel to find things in the graveyard, especially with Den Protector as well, makes it great. And a lot of people don't know that Mind Rack Demon, I'll cast it and I'll be like 1 card off from Delirium, a land or anything like that, and they won't Ruinous Path it, thinking they could, I'll take 4 damage, and then my upkeep cast like an instant or anything like that, or crack the Vessel, since it's a delayed trigger off of that. And I was really surprised that nobody was really playing Mind Rack Demon at all, especially in Seasons Pass. It made perfect sense there. I mean, I love 4 or 5 flying tramplers. It's like Absent. No. Go away.
Right, and along with the Vessel and all the mill, your Seasons Pass are going to be very good because your graveyard's going to be filled with all kinds of tutorable targets and just really good cards. If your opponent can deal with something like a Virulent Plague or you name your bullet of choice, you can get it back later.
Between Seasons Pass and Den Protector and Pulse of Marasa for Den Protector, it's really hard to lock me out of cards just killing them.
Okay. Now there's some pretty spicy one-ofs floating around in here. We're going to go over some of the big hitters first. Of course, the Gitrog Monster.
When I originally built the deck, it had the Gitrog Monster in it, and I just love that guy. I mean, 6/6 Death Toucher, draw cards, play extra lands. What's not to love?
Yeah.
And I realized that I just couldn't do it with a 25 land, 26 land deck when it was originally built. That was just pushing it. And when I rebuilt the deck to 100 cards, I'm like, well, I have ramp now, and I have a whole bunch more lands that I want to get out of my hand. I want to play the Gitrog Monster. Plus, it lets me say I have a commander deck, and I have a commander for it, since I'm already at 100 cards.
Some of the rules are broken a bit with the 4-ups, but
a little bit. It's a new commander.
Commander for Standard. And Ulvenwald Hydra here. We've seen this in some ramp strategies, but you also have some nifty one-ofs for this to tutor up as well.
Yes. Besides the basic Hissing Quagmires that you're going to find in green-black, I have Blighted Fen to really just kill like the Ojutais, Sphinx of the Final Word, especially Ulamog too, the World Breaker. Those cards, you just got to get rid of.
Yeah.
And then if I'm really, we're just on a top deck mode, I can go get Seagate Wreckage, and that card just draws so many lands. Plus, I mean, it comes out as a 7/7 for 6 with reach. But a lot of times where people are like, just 7/7, swing in the air.
Yeah.
Block with my reach guy, because everybody forgets about that text.
That, and of course, World Breaker, conveniently, another card with reach a lot of people forget about. You have this in here as an answer to problem
enchantments and artifacts. It was really for the, I was main decking a Naturalize and for Fevered Visions and that deck, because I am a little slower to the gate. If they do an early Fevered Visions, I can take a lot of damage, just not get rid of my hand. And so I figured, World Break, an uncannibal answer to it, and it covered everything that I need: problem lands and enchantments and artifacts.
Not going to have an issue about milling, but you will have an issue about emptying your hand.
Startled Awake is not going to get me.
Then we've seen this in Ben Stark's deck. He kind of took out the Season's Past and went more creature, but you got Woodwind Bellower in here that can pull out Sylvan Advocate. You got Tireless Tracker as targets for that.
Yes, when I originally actually bought Woodwind Bellower, I missed that non-legendary text on there, and I was like, oh, why are people not doing this with Nissa?
Yeah.
Just slamming Nissas. And then I realized it. But I mean, still a really good card.
Yeah.
I mean, you get like 11 power for 6 if you go get a Sylvan Advocate.
Yeah, when trying to beat control, it just allows you to get so many avenues of attack.
It makes them have more than one answer, they can't one-for-one me. They have to have like Planar Outburst, since Languishes isn't going to do it.
A couple of limited all-stars that stand out here that we see pop in: Seer's Lantern, and then the Magnifying Glass. You just got to start investigating.
I've caught a lot of flack for those cards from my friends in the shop, but I mean they do double duty. Let me ramp for one thing.
Sure.
The other thing is they let me cast Thought-Knot Seer, because sometimes it is kind of hard to find colorless mana. Plus, they're also a good late game mana sink. When I start flooding out, because sometimes that just will happen with any deck.
Right. Assume you have a lot more lands than the average deck as well. But
yeah, statistically I have the same percentage-wise, but I have to run 38 lands.
Yeah. Statistics, whatever.
Yeah, who cares about those?
Of course, with your one-ofs, you got Pick the Brain and Infinite Obliteration here. You mentioned Obliteration for the ramp strategies. This pick for just, what's the main target?
Everything, really. I besides White Weenie or White Red, I never sideboard out Pick the Brain. It just does so much work. I mean, turn 1 Vessel, crack it into Pick the Brain. It's almost like 80% chance I'll have Delirium and just take a hand away. And Dark Petition for Pick the Brain, so I just don't have to, like if I know they have 2 Ulamogs in hand or 2 Chandras and I need to get rid of one of them, Dark Petition for Pick the Brain just gets both of them.
Right. That seems like a pretty good strategy. Now, of course, we've mentioned some of the one-ofs. You've got a bunch of other cards that are kind of overlapping. When you have 100 cards, you're going to have a lot of cards. So you just have a plethora of removal spells, any and all kind of jammed in here. Languish.
Green-black base deck, so you're going to have the Grasp of Darkness, your Ultimate Prices, your Languishes, your Ruinous Pasts. I mean, you really can't play green-black, or basically black, without having those. So those are all 3 Languishes, play sets of Grasp of Darkness. Only 2 Ultimate Prices, though, because there's so much Eldrazi and colorless roaming around. And after the removal, you have 4 of Thought-Knots here, because it's a great rate of card.
Yeah.
I mean, we all saw that in Modern, how that was really bad.
And Legacy.
And
Vintage.
Legacy. Vintage now, too?
Oh, yeah.
And of course, 4 of Mind Rack Demons, because it just makes such a good way to self-mill myself and get that Delirium going. That 4/5 flyer, I mean, they have to plus Gideon. If I go Mind Rack Demon and they go Gideon, they just have to plus it.
Sure.
And, of course, you have the 3 Dark Petitions, 4 Sylvan Advocates, because Sylvan Advocate, it's a great card.
One of the best 2-drops we've seen in Standard in a long time.
When I first saw the Green-Black Season Pass deck, I was surprised that they weren't playing that in there. I mean, it just seems like the greatest thing. It's defensive, it's offensive. You're playing 4 Hissing Quagmires. I mean, it does everything you want.
Sideboard, you have a bunch of extra cards. Couldn't quite fit them in here. You got a bunch more discard, a bunch more situational removal spells. What's the highlight card out of the sideboard?
The sideboard? Wow. Probably the Flaying Tendrils. Because, like I said, aggro, I mean, they can just rush me down before I can find something, and being that it is 100 cards, sometimes you always won't have that Languish like you would in normal green-black. So those really come in to help that out.
All right. What would be card 101, or I guess in terms of sideboard as well, 116 that didn't make the cut?
I really like Nissa's the Planeswalker version of her, but with main decking Virulent Plague. Probably just a third Ob Nixilis. I mean, that card is just, does everything that I want.
All right, well, the deck is cool. We have seen Seasons Past before, but we have not seen 100 card Seasons Past.
Well,
and it sounds like a joke, but you have so many tools and you have so many ways to find them. You're 5-1 so far, so something has to be going right.
Yeah, I mean, at its heart, it is Green-Black Seasons Past. I mean, that deck will just grind it out. And this will just grind out the even grindier matches.
All right, well, Ian, thanks for joining me on the sideboard.
Thank you.
Stay tuned to StarCityGames.com all weekend long for the action here in Orlando.